On today's History of Politics, we're going to talk about one of the more popular amendments. It's something very important if you're dealing with the courts, and not just federal courts, but federal and state courts. It's an argument that I have to admit, I haven't seen it. I've seen it used very rarely nowadays, but nonetheless, it exists. The Eighth Amendment says that no excessive bail shall be required, nor excessive fines, meaning that let's break this down a little bit. A judge has to weigh between the person and what they can afford versus the crime versus the threat to the community. You have to remember that the excuse is that a judge always has to put the safety of the community first. Okay? For example, if you got your panties in or underwear in a bunch and you decided you want to go out and perform a mass murder, you grab an AR-15 or an HK-47 and you go out and drill about 15, 20 people. You are a threat to the community. Your actions spoke for you. That's where excessive bail, because of the crime itself, the heinousness of the crime, the threat to the community, that warrants excessive bail. On the other hand, a chain snatcher, I don't even know if that still goes on. I highly doubt it, but I'm a child of the 60s and I was in my 20s and the 80s. That's when I began to be aware, like some of you. So in the 1980s, especially in states like New York, the urban centers where the big gold chains were popular back then, the crackheads would come and they'd grab your chain and run off because they knew the clasp would break. Chain snatching is the same as purse snatching. In most states, it's considered a third-degree felony. Third-degree robbery, to be exact. Now, the definition of robbery is in the course of committing a theft, puts the victim in fear of immediate bodily injury. That's the difference between a robbery and a theft. A theft is somebody leaves their wallet full of cash sitting on a table, another person comes, picks it up, they get caught, that's theft. Because the victim of the theft was now put in fear of immediate bodily injury. But in a robbery, they have to be. Now, it's kind of narrow that way because, let's face it, in an actual robbery, you either have had to hit somebody or threaten them with a weapon or produce the weapon. You have to put them in fear of being hurt some kind of way. In a chain snatching or a purse snatching, you might say, how can that be? The chain was grabbed running by. The person didn't fall down. The person wasn't injured. The person didn't even see it coming. So how were they an imminent threat of bodily harm? Right? Now, let's look at some further particulars. Okay? So under the law, right? Depending on the state, of course, but under the law, it's going to indicate that, well, this is their first time doing it. It is a third-degree felony. The person's a crackhead. They may not come back to court. We need to ensure that they come back to court, which is the purpose of bail. So a judge might say $10,000. Well, if you're a crackhead and you're stealing, obviously you don't have money. So $10,000 is like $1 million or $1 billion or $1 trillion to them. That could be defined as excessive bail. This is why there are defendants that get out on personal recognizance bonds where they don't have to pay cash. This is why they get out. But let the punishment fit the crime. Particular cases like robberies and like that, that's a case where it really needs to be weighed over by a judge. There needs to be more criteria in the arraignment and bail setting process, where you did this, and although it's not a case where, you did commit a theft. So even though you're not qualified for a release on recognizance, you do need to pay something. If you can't, if $10,000 is like $1 trillion to you, conversely, $200 might be like $1,000 to you. Maybe you can get somebody to front that. There's a possibility. The other part of the amendment says that there will be no cruel and unusual punishment, which means that a prison warden, for example, cannot arbitrarily put you in solitary or take away your phone contact, or take away your conjugal visits, or take away your visits at all. Additionally, a judge has to work within the sentencing guidelines. Let's go back to the robbery case. If you robbed somebody, if you literally didn't have a weapon, you didn't threaten anybody with a weapon, but you demanded money from them, a judge cannot give you 20 years for that. That's cruel and unusual punishment. 5 years, okay, but not 20. Whereas, let's go back to the mass shooting. Yeah, you should go out and shoot 15, 30 people with an AR-15 or an AK-47. Yeah, go ahead and get ready for like life sentences, okay? And let's be clear what a life sentence is. In most states, and even in the federal government, you have two kinds of life. You have a life sentence, which is normally in the range of 30 years. And then you have an actual life sentence, which is you ain't never coming out. No parole, nothing. You staying in there. Now, in states where they don't have natural life sentences, what a judge will do is they'll give you consecutive life sentences, which means for every victim number 1, 30 years, which is going to be count 1. Victim number 1 is count 1, 30 years. Count 2, 30 years. Count 3, 30 years. Count 4, 30 years, or life sentence in each one. What that comes down to is 120 years. I don't think they're going to live that long. So that's effectively a natural life sentence. So that's the Eighth Amendment. I hope you learned a little something from that today, because you never know in this world. You never know when you might get disappeared off the streets and accused for doing something that you didn't do. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.